60%. 100%. All right.
We are live.
And I need to get this to not echo in my ears. There it is. And now it's muted. Okay, well, we won't hear it twice. That's what I want. Okay, cool. Now I gotta go through my usual routine. Here we go. So that one's good. And then this one gets shared as me. Share. Share now in the public. Okay. And that's good there. So that's where it needs to be. Good. And we want to go to multi-stream so I can see what people are saying, and we're good. Okay. Oh, what, like, except for Discord, though. Go set there. And also here. Dealing with your faith in humanity. I decided I really wanted to, like, capitalize all the letters in your. I don't know. I just kind of felt like doing that. I'm apparently streaming at 60 frames per second. So that's nice.
Hello, 60 frames.
Hello.
Did you link it to all the Twitches? Oh no. I hear.
I know. Just it's not gonna work hearing yourself twice. Never.
I wonder why that messes me up so much. Like, I can't speak and hear myself having spoken.
I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure there is an actual game that is centered around trying to speak while you hear yourself. It's kind of up there with that game where you put that plastic piece in your mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And then try to say words. It's really hard.
And then you drool all over yourself and
yeah.
all over other people, and then you just pass it off.
Yeah.
You're next.
Why would they do that? Disgusting.
Hey, man. It's preparing us for the Rona.
It's preparing us. It's preparing people for marriage is what it's preparing people for. Not exactly the inability to speak, but the having someone else's something in your mouth. I'll just stop right there.
Keep digging, Brandon.
I need to stop. It's time to stop. Where are your parents?
Something in your mouth. Come on, Brown.
Sorry.
This is not a child-rated stream, by the way.
It is not. Don't worry. I have made sure the settings said not for children, so there should hopefully be no children in this stream. So, yeah.
Oh, there it goes. There's that little yellow exclamation point.
Yellow X. Oh, talking about a lag somewhere?
Yeah, I think you need to increase your bit rate because you set it to 2,000, right?
Where are you seeing this yellow exclamation mark thing?
Above where it says live. On Discord.
I missed that. Oh, on Discord?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that must be on Discord itself. Huh.
Maybe.
Okay, interesting.
So it's only for me.
Yeah. I might see that then again pop up. I don't know. Maybe if I'm like looking in the right place at the right time. I don't know. Either way. Hello everybody, and welcome to Thought Raid, a show where we take on your thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. I'm Brandon Brown, owner of United Gamers Nation and a lay counselor, and gathered with me today is the wonderful Tim Denock with his brand new lighting setting, which just looks absolutely beautiful, and he is the owner of Break the Meta LLC. And today is Friday, which means we've got a topic prepared for you. But first, I would like to take a second to show off these beautiful new glasses that I have. Because it's super important that you notice my glasses. Notice me, senpai.
Now, ladies, one at a time.
Yeah, I had to get new glasses. These are actually non-prescription glasses.
I thought you were about to say I had to get nude.
No, that's not what I was going to say. No, I had to get new glasses because they're non-prescription, but they're blue light filtering glasses because, you know, since the Rona and being at home and in front of my computer more frequently, my eyes were dying. So I needed to save their lives. And so far, I'm kind of like testing this out, seeing how it works. And it's been doing good. My eyes feel less dry than they typically have, but it's still a little bit soon to know just how much it's affected me. But I can definitely say, if you ever start up a desk job and you're in front of a computer screen for a while, that does affect your vision. I never thought that was a thing because I spent more time at work than I did at home until now, and it's been reversed, and it is a thing. So I'm a tested this out, and I may not wear these glasses next stream because all I can see is the amount of things that are being reflected in the lenses. So I'm kind of conscientious of that right now. If this bothers you at all, if you are distracted as I am with the things that are reflecting into these glasses, let me know. Or let me know, because I'm not blind. I can see without them. I just, I'm using them for safety reasons. So.
It is weird. It's like one of those accessories that you put on, and it's almost, how you go from adolescent to young adult to adult, and it's really hard to quantify when you've taken that step. It's like you put those on, you've immediately gained a level or something.
I heard that. Was that you or someone else first told me that about, like, you would know, but someone told me, maybe it was you. I think it probably was
Ariane,
you at the or Ariane, yes, at the bonfire. Just like, you have transitioned into adulthood. I'm like, yay. But I think my reaction to that is kind of linked to the fact that virtually everyone in my online gaming community, United Gamers Nations, has teased me for a long time about how I'm an old man and need to be put in a home. And so I guess that's maybe why I'm more conscientious of it than if that wasn't the case. I probably wouldn't be thinking about it as much, but that's beside the point. We had a conversation. Things are a little bit better. So that's good. But anyways, all that to say, so today, one of the things that has been on my mind as I was kind of scrolling through all the topics we had written about for this month and a couple months to come, one of them stuck out to me, and that was addressing our faith in humanity. This is a topic that has taken importance in my heart really within the last year and this year mostly, as I've had friends in my life that have kind of fallen into the ditch of faith in humanity, kind of believing almost naively in that humanity is, naturally good, and we should, not hold negative views towards them. Like, if they believe that this is right, then they're gonna do the right thing, because they're naturally good people, and all of humanity is like that. And I've just kind of seen some downward spirals from that mindset, and so it's been on my mind. I've really been wanting to kind of address that. So, but before I go into my personal beliefs about humanity as a whole, I figured we should probably start with breaking down the whole topic of faith in humanity. And there was a couple of questions that I didn't think of that you thought of first, Tim, that I want to kick it over to you for regarding humanity, and then I'll go into the questions that I wrote and kind of work from there. So what was those first few questions that you shared with me about this topic?
Well, I'm really big on clean language and clearing up exactly what you're trying to communicate, because we talked about this yesterday about how it's really easy to say something, and for the other party, even if you say it completely coherently in your mind, for the other party to receive it a different way. So to like refine it and get it down to the bare bones of what we're actually trying to communicate. And there's a couple things that I wrote down that I just want to make absolutely clear for context, like what we mean.
Yeah.
And something you just said actually sparked. I also want to talk about negative views. So you said what it can easily cause you to view somebody negatively. I just want to clean that up also, because it's not like when you're talking about faith in humanity, you're not looking at somebody thinking in a gossiping mindset, oh, they're this or they're doing this or they're doing that. There's a difference between having a negative view on somebody and seeing it for what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what you would call that. I guess just having the maturity to look past the circumstance of the person and see their weakness. There's got to be a term for that, but having a negative view is like looking at Jerry Springer and judging people. Oftentimes, judgment and negative views go hand in hand.
It may also be best described in the dichotomy of, or the trichotomy of optimism, realism, and pessimism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, ironically, I feel like most people would never view themselves as pessimists, but there is such thing as pessimism. I think most people who are pessimists probably would view themselves as a realist, but there is a in-between absolute positivity and absolute negativity, and the toxicity of both ends of those spectrums and the extreme ends, that is.
Yeah.
So, but what were the questions that you had?
Well, a couple of them were just cleaning up the language, as I mentioned. So we just talked about negative views. I want to clean up the language around what we mean when we say humanity. So the topic tonight is dealing with your faith in humanity. And when we talk about humanity, that's kind of ambiguous. If you go to the dictionary and you just look it up, it says humans as a collective of beings.
As a matter of fact, it says the human race, human beings collectively. The exact word for word. You got it almost verbatim there.
Yeah. So when we talk about humanity, that's what we mean. Because when we say faith in humanity, it just depends on from which lens you view it. So you could view faith in humanity as faith in a specific body of people, which what the definition talks about. Faith in humanity as this individual did this, so I judge everybody based on that. So when we talk about humanity, we're talking about our human race as a whole, the good, the bad, the priests and the people sitting in jail, everybody. I want to clean up language around the word hope as well. So how would you define hope, Brandon? Having hope in humanity, having faith in humanity.
So the words hope and faith, like, I would say hope meaning like I'm hoping for better. Like my hope in humanity would be like my hope is that humanity is good, like that people are going to do the right thing. It's my hope that things are going to go in a positive direction. Like my beliefs, what I'm holding on to, what I'm holding on to. I think it's the best way to kind of define hope is what you're holding out for, what you're believing for, what you're in your heart of hearts, this is the way you want something to happen, kind of thing. Like what you desire to see happen, hoping for, like you want to see that. And faith, I feel like, is kind of in a similar way in this particular context. It's but faith and hope I think there are two different things. Hope for humanity is what I hope to see happen. So it's like what I want to see happen. It's what I'm holding out for. It's like no matter what happens, I have hope for humanity. Faith in humanity, though, and that's kind of what I'm addressing is not necessarily hope for humanity, but faith in humanity. See, there's a key difference. Hope for, faith in. So faith in humanity is I believe in humankind as a whole, that in humankind as a whole, we are not a messed up race. We're a noble race, and I believe the best in humanity, and that it's most likely going to go down a positive path. So that's faith. Mm-hmm. But hope for humanity is a more realistic term. So like if I'm hoping for something, it's more like I don't see it happening, but I'm holding out for it. Mm-hmm. So does that clean it up better?
Yeah. And just taking it one step further, I would say just maintaining your view on the value of something regardless of the circumstances. Because the circumstances are always going to change, but the value is not. So you have hope that their value is going to come out on top. And then lastly, the difference between good and evil. I don't want to talk about the difference specifically, but what do we mean when we say good and evil? Because when you mentioned this earlier, and we were going through your little synopsis and your pseudo blog about it, you mentioned that people can be evil. And when you say stuff like that, I just imagine people walking around in society, oh, ha, 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 trying to hand out poison apples to kids and stuff. Because we're gonna say some things right now that address humanity, or tonight that are gonna address humanity as a whole.
Mm.
And so saying that humanity is good or humanity is evil, I just want to clean it up. Like, what do we mean by that?
Okay, so this is, I think, where I guess this is a really good place where we could easily, as we're communicating, kind of get lost in that, because what people perceive as good and evil is going to vary depending on upbringing, what they've been through, all that kind of stuff. So, if I were to define good, I would define it in such a way of selflessness, of unconditional love, of generosity, of self-care, and not self-hatred, of being patient, humility, areas that are very personal to a person, that's not just good as in, whether this circumstance is good, but personal lifestyle of good, what personally is good from person to person. And I would suggest that evil being, it can be as extreme as what you described, like, trying to, yes, kidnapping children and, stealing someone else's personal possessions, or murder. But I want to take evil up a notch. And this is why I feel like it is not good, personally, to have faith in humanity, because evil can be very blatant, but it also can be very hard to notice, such as gossip, slander, things like resentment, bitterness, favoritism, small areas that are not necessarily overtly noticed, like if Hitler were to show up at your house tomorrow, but more subtle, where it's just these certain areas that take our heart in a negative direction that, given the chance, could mean bigger and badder results. But if not given the chance, you wouldn't quite notice it, because they're not manipulation, gaslighting. These are things that I would consider to be evil.
Yeah.
So does that kind of get a better idea, a better perspective on those two things?
Oh yeah, dude. Like sometimes you go through stories and you never want to associate with the evil person, and you read the Bible and it talks about the difference between good and evil, and you're like, man, it's not me. I don't have to worry about that. And I've heard people say, what? I actually don't need Jesus. I don't need religion. I don't need God, because I'm not an evil person. At heart, I'm a good person. And I think the way you define it's really good, because it's not just whoa, ha, 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 ha. It's not just the murderers and like the antagonists of movies and stuff. It's the little self-serving everyday thoughts that you give yourself into.
Yeah. Those self-defeating thought processes that we accept. This is the way it's always going to be. I have to do this because that's what someone else would want me to do, or whatever. These small little things that add up to a much bigger action, where you get someone who's very angry and bitter and whatever and stuff of that nature. So that's I'm addressing macro evil and micro evil here, and just kind of going out, not to say that that gossip is needs the same kind of punishment as murder does. Not saying that, but I'm saying that they're both not good. So that's how I would define good and evil. Good, it's not self-serving. You're thinking of others, being generous, you're forgiving people, loving them unconditionally, not like, oh, I gave you something, so you should give me something back. Stuff like that, not self-serving. And evil being selfishness, lying, to protect yourself, kind of thing. Stuff of that nature is what I would say. And I guess lying to protect yourself is another can of worms in and of itself. But, just in general, of like, in the most general sense, that's what I'm talking about.
Cool. Yeah, and that's all. It's just cleaning up. When we say negative views, when we say humanity, hope, faith, and then good or evil, those are the definitions that we're going to be using tonight when we relate that to the whatever the talk
and
gets
so
into.
Today I want to specifically address faith in humanity, not hope, but faith in humanity, where we believe that humanity is ultimately good, and therefore we're looking for things to restore our faith in humanity. So I guess the questions you asked do you feel like they kind of covered well what is hope in humanity, or should we break into that as well?
I figure that you and I are very much so similarly verbose, so I'm sure it'll get covered as we go through.
Okay, but just to be on the safe side, I do want to kind of cover what is faith in faith in humanity. So again, just to kind of we did talk about this, but just to kind of, before we move forward, faith in humanity is the belief that humanity is trustworthy, good, and that there are few evil people, and so those evil people are the outliers. But in general, humanity is going to gravitate towards goodness, and we should have better faith in them rather than to distrust them. It's kind of the specific thing that I'm targeting here. So the next question that I had to that is, why would you say, Tim, why do you think people typically care to even have faith in humanity? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that matter.
Why should we care to have faith in humanity? I was groomed to, honestly. All the Disney movies and all the feel-good Hallmark, Asian in me almost came out, Hallmark. All Disney movies, Hallmark movies, all the media and stuff, because there's so much bad. There's a lot of people that just want to focus on the good and just say, oh, people are good. And, that's a conversation I had with my wife early on, where I conflated expecting the best for people with thinking that people are inherently good, and then the enemy tempts us to be evil, which is kind of true. But why should we care to have faith in humanity?
Why do we care to have hope or faith in humanity? Like, why do people actively care to why do people make posts on Facebook of my faith in humanity has been restored, and they find it important to let people know this action, this man saving this whale from being beached on the shore has restored my faith in humanity. Why does that even matter?
Well, I feel like even though a lot of people, especially with COVID, we're both in the gaming scene, there's that phrase going around, we've been preparing for this our whole lives, being isolated and being alone. And a lot of us think, oh, well, I'm totally fine being alone. But I think at our core, we're meant for relationship. We're meant for relationships. We're meant to include other people. John Maxwell says nothing of great significance has ever been done by one person alone. Even somebody like Jesus had people all around him that were supporting him. Mother Teresa had an entourage of people. It's very, very hard to accomplish anything of significance by yourself. And I think we know that. We're wired for that.
Yeah.
We always want to have an accomplice to do good. And just believing that somebody else cares about that, everybody just wants to know that there's somebody else that feels the way they do about something. Maybe I'm getting off track, but what do you think?
No, I'm following you. I'm curious where you're going with that.
Mhm.
Unless that's the end of the thought.
That's the end of the thought for
Okay.
now. I don't know. I inherently, I just choose to have faith in humanity, especially when there's so much um, going on out there that's causing me to not. Which, when you said earlier, we were talking about this, and you were talking about how humanity as a whole is evil. Something in me was like, Brandon, you're wrong. Yeah, I wanted to contest that, but thought raid.
Yeah. This is the place where we can talk about it. So, again, as we're talking about this, if you actively do not agree, you are more than welcome to talk about it with us in chat or comments on Facebook, wherever you may be watching this. Please do, because I love to see different perspectives. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but this is something that I've been working through, so I'm going to present it anyways until we get to the end of the thought. But in my opinion, I would say that the reason why a lot of people care to even have faith in humanity, I think comes out of probably maybe, I would say at least the closest I can think of that would relate to me is it would be fear based. I would want to believe the best in humanity because I would see all the bad that is happening and I would be afraid of that. And so my hope is that, and maybe this is again, I'm conflating faith and hope, but I would hope that things would get better. So
Mhm.
I'm like, if I see people doing good things, it means, okay, maybe the worst has not yet come and I'm safe, because that person's doing the right thing. So maybe, humanity is not as bad as I thought it was. And so I'd put faith in it, not willing to see the other thing that's happening because of fear of what it could mean for me if it came my way. And I feel like maybe it also, at least from the people that I've talked to specifically, maybe people care to have faith in humanity because to not have faith in humanity means to be perpetually uncomfortable with all the things that are happening sometimes, and
Mhm.
maybe also fear of confrontation. So that if humanity is not naturally good and I have no faith in humanity, and then I see things that are happening, I may then be responsible to speak up when I see injustice. But if there is faith in humanity, then it will correct itself because humanity is naturally good, and then there's no responsibility on my end to have to speak up and say, "Hey, that's not good." I
Mhm.
might have to endure some rejection, some someone not understanding me, maybe a little bit of people getting angry with me, maybe in some extreme cases, depending where I'm at in the world, I might also endure persecution for disagreeing with humanity and believing that it is not naturally good. I can think
Mhm.
as a Christian, it is perhaps the hardest to hold the belief that humanity is naturally flawed because then you'll have a lot of people that don't understand or see things as we see them and they get offended and they start to yell or they've become withdrawn or whatever, and then we kind of lose that connection with the people because we don't choose to see them as naturally good, which then shakes their worldview and makes them feel uncomfortable. So then they're gonna, of
Mhm.
course, react to that, which then makes us like, I'm just stating this. Why are you getting so upset with me? Because I've had that happen to me. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that because it's like I'm afraid that's going to happen. It has happened to me, where people don't understand, and the next thing you know, we're not talking as much anymore. And it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Um,
As you were talking, I just think about how it's so easy, at least for guys. Maybe it's the same for girls, but I know for guys, it's really easy to relate to that one movie protagonist that goes against the flow of evil to right all the wrongs in the world. There's
yeah,
always that one character, and it's like they're creating pockets of safety when they find people that follow them, because I think we inherently know that everything out there is evil and just a mess. We just know that. Like, our parents teach us don't talk to strangers. If an adult tries to uh, get you to keep secrets from other people, that red flag. We're taught to be on our guard as we go out into the world, but when you find people that fight against those desires, because even the protagonists deal with some kind of selfishness. Everybody's got that weakness. it's the people that choose the good when they have the opportunity to give into their selfishness. You know, it's almost like you can trust that because they're going to trust your welfare over their own welfare. So why do we care to have faith in humanity? I don't know. I think we all want to hold on to hope that there is good out there because we're surrounded by so much evil.
Yeah. I would be daring to say, though, that faith in humanity would probably be more of a threat in first world countries than outside of first world countries. I think it's a luxury because you were talking about your experiences just going to Mexico, and Mexico is not necessarily a third world country, but it's also not a first world country either. And there was things that you had to deal with that would have never dealt with in a million years in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I could think of other countries where I've heard things of just turmoil and stuff, and like stuff your head would spin, like what the heck is going on? Like in was it Venezuela? I think Venezuela, or just places like Iran or the Sahara Desert, several places there. There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of stuff that we take for granted here in the United States, and so we naturally think because we're safe and the people are not necessarily going to outright do something to us, then we can easily then be deceived into thinking that humanity is naturally good because our localized microcosm it's a safe world, and usually there is a ramification for wrong, and only certain people do that. But most of the people, they're like, man, whatever you believe, you do you, kind of thing. And it's just like this kind of false morality that kind of lulls us into this belief that all is well. And I feel like it had for whatever reason, maybe it's just because of the fact that I love Star Trek, but it seemed to have a fever pitch in the 80s and 90s of like this, everything is just, we've arrived at this morality and, a faithless society kind of thing. And I don't know. And there's this whole belief system that came out of Judeo-Christian values, and somehow people believe that that was natural, a part of humanity, all the good that did come out of it, and so they assume that God is no longer necessary, and that people are just naturally good. And now we've got, nowadays it's called New Age.
Yeah, well, you talking about that makes me think about universalism because, especially being here in the U.S., where there are um, in very few instances do you actually have to are you required to take responsibility for your actions. Like we talked a few streams ago about how a lot of people are keyboard warriors. They'll get on social media and say this and say that just so passionately, and you can tell they've never been punched in the throat. That's the meme, you know.
Yes.
It's like with universalism, it's people are saying your truth is okay as long as it doesn't affect me, because you can go over there and you can live in your home and you can have pizza delivered to your house because the government's giving you X amount of dollars to survive without you doing anything. As long as your truth is over there and it's away from me, it's fine. You're a good as long as you're a good person, what you believe is good. And that's how you have people trying to normalize pedophilia. Pedophilia is not okay.
Yeah.
It is not okay. But there are some people that are thinking, oh, as long as it doesn't affect me, or as long as it's over here, people just need to be, they have to have grace for their situation.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like The Walking Dead is a really good example if you've ever seen the show. When it comes down to base survival, people, if it's you and me and my wife, Brandon, and I have to choose between, I'm sorry, I'm choosing my wife. I love you, but,
No.
I'm going to shoot you in the leg and leave you behind for the zombies because I'm trying to survive, But when it comes down to that, and you're thinking about the morality of good and evil, and are we evil to an extent? We're evil to when it comes down to survival. Like, am I going to live or die? We're going to choose ourselves frequently, unless you're Jesus. Then he chose everybody else.
Yeah.
Um, and I think getting outside the lens of being first world, where we are actually accountable for our actions, there is a right and wrong way to do things, and there are things that we should be held accountable for and that are not okay. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Very passionate about that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I think also another point to why do we care to have hope in humanity? I feel like there probably is a lot of people like in America or maybe other safe places such as Japan or the United Kingdom where they just don't see there is enough law enforcement and enough some kind of belief system that kind of keeps people from usually reaching out and forcing their beliefs on others, that people will naturally therefore think that we are good. I feel like it comes to that, and to deviate from that is a scary place to be, because if they're not good, then the way that I'm living could shift all of a sudden, and I may not be prepared for it. So I feel like it's safer to believe that everything is okay and everything is acceptable and humanity is naturally good. And I feel like that's kind of where that comes from. Joseph is saying some individuals give up on hope in humanity and stay in a bubble that revolves around them and their family because it feels like a lost cause. There is no helping it. And that is another side I want to address, because that's also a ditch. I feel like there are two ditches that are going to be dealt with today. The ditch of humanity is naturally good and it has no flaws, and humanity is just terrible and there's no hope. Because it's not hopeless, but it's also not perfect. I want to kind of find today the middle ground of it's got flaws, but it also is not just squeaky clean perfect. You know, just because someone is not directly affecting you does not mean they're not affecting others, and does not mean that all these actions that you do selfishly will not one day affect others and yourself either, even if you just remain in your neighborhood and that's all you live in. It still has reach. So I guess the next question, and I'm kind of hinting in this direction, but I would say, is humanity naturally good? And it is my personal belief, and it is also belief that I have solidified through reading the Word of God, that humanity is not naturally good. And the scripture verse that I pull from in that particular context comes from Jeremiah 17, verse 9, and also possibly 10, but 9 specifically, and this is the New Living Translation. It says, "The human heart is the most deceitful thing of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? But I, the Lord, search all hearts and examine secret motives. I give all people their due rewards according to what their actions deserve." And so that is kind of a main scripture verse that I stand on when I think of humanity. What that says is that even if a person never rapes, never murders, don't do drugs, they don't become an alcoholic, they live this seemingly perfect life, everyone has wrong thinking they have to deal with. And a lot of people do good things for wrong reasons. So it is good not to murder, not to steal, not to take some advantage of someone. No one really has to debate if those things are right or wrong. But I think a lot of people end up living good lives for selfish reasons, such as, I'm going to do this because this is how my parents told me to do it. Or I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do. And they end up making decisions that are not truly their heart's decisions. They're just making either cerebral or fear-based decisions because that's the way it's supposed to be. And there are people that kind of try to break out of that, and then you kind of get into people that kind of go down into the past of the most obvious things, where they're stealing, where they're murdering. But it all begins with the thought process of never really going and like taking morality and making it personal. And like, why is this right? Why is this wrong? And it is kind of like they do it because they're afraid that they might be rejected if they don't do this good thing. Like I know so many people like yourself and me, where I've given because I felt like if I don't give, then they're not going to like me. They're not going to appreciate me, or I should give to this cause because I don't want to come across as someone who's insensitive or whatever. And
Oh
that's
man,
yeah,
I
and
feel so guilty every time. Sir, do you want to round up? No, I don't want to round
no,
up.
I don't. Yeah, but you see
And then
that.
they give you that stink eye.
Yeah, but you see that's the thing though. That's not living right for the right reasons. That's selfishness wrapped up in a pretty bow. Like it would. I'm not saying that theft is good, but it would almost be better to do those more blatant things and honestly do them, not honestly think there's anything wrong, than to pretend or to think that, oh, I gotta do this because it's the right thing because it's dishonest. Like the standard that God holds us at includes our thought life and why we do things as we do things. It's not merely enough. Like one of the bars that Jesus set was, murder is bad, but saying hateful things to your brother is about as equivalent as murder. Like being hateful, you've already assassinated their character. You've assassinated, any good thing about them by your hatred. You speaking, say to someone idiot, whatever, just you're in wrath, you're speaking negatively over them. That's about as equivalent in God's eyes as murder. In this society, that would be considered as maybe sarcasm, or it would be considered as, oh, I didn't mean it, whatever. But in reality, it's in your heart, kind of thing. And so it is my belief, what I'm presenting today is that humanity is not naturally good. We may do good deeds, but why are we doing those good deeds? Are we truly behind the actions we're doing, or are we just doing it because that's what everyone else is doing, kind of thing? Because the reality is morality, earthly morality, human morality, everyone, I think if you just look, you can easily see it shifts. So right now, what is acceptable, there's a lot of things in morality that are good that are acceptable, and there are some things that are bad that are acceptable. And so people are going to most likely do the thing that causes them the least pain, which is to go with the world's state of morality. So in the good, okay, don't murder, great, rape is not good, okay, cool, be kind to your neighbors, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That's all a part of the morality of this country. But also in the morality of this country is everything. All belief systems are correct and good, and every kind of sexuality is a good sexuality. If it doesn't hurt them, if it doesn't hurt me, I don't see what the problem is with this. So incest is okay. Maybe we're not there yet, but we're trying to get there. Maybe pedophilia is okay. Maybe it's okay to take advantage of children. They're miniature adults.
And just to clarify, Brandon's not actually suggesting that. He's positing how people think.
That is not my belief. I am positing the current trajectory of the morality of the United States of America at this moment, as we speak. Not personal beliefs that I hold in that. So yes, thank you, Tim. And so if you're not careful and you believe that humanity is naturally good, then you could easily take on those things, and because everyone else is accepting it, then I should also accept that. And it's just, there's no personal accountability and all of that, which is not good.
And it's so tough though, because it's almost like it's shaming, because in one camp, or as you were saying earlier, in one ditch you have legalism.
Right.
And then in the other ditch, you have universalism.
Yeah.
It's like, both suck, and it's trying to find that harmony that's right in between. Because I've just been sitting here listening to you and thinking about the question, is humanity naturally good? And I want to say, yeah, I want to say, yeah, because that's the picture that's always been painted for me in the Disney world. People are always going to choose good, the collective always wants the better part. And I think it's just because, we want to feel safe. We want to believe that so we can feel safe, thinking I can go out into the world and people aren't going to try and take advantage of me. People aren't thinking, ill thoughts about me. People are thinking the best about me. Like you bring that verse back up again if you would.
Yes. So it was Jeremiah chapter
Yeah.
17, verse 9. The human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is how it
Yeah.
starts.
And then it says,
But I, the
according to
Lord,
what
yeah, but I, the Lord, search all hearts and examine secret motives. I give all people their due rewards according to what their actions deserve.
so I frequently have thoughts about dumb stuff like pushing my wife off a mountain when we go hiking, or you know, like that Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, how they would throw sticks in front of the rollerbladers and make them fall, or even little things like um, just thoughts about women, just all sorts of things that are not my character. But the truth is, that is my character. I just choose to do different things with my thoughts, because at the end of that it says by their actions, how you choose to action those thoughts. Do you entertain them, or do you take every thought captive?
Yeah.
So thinking about that, I think I'm a pretty decent human being. I think I'm probably in the 90th percentile if I'm being self-righteous a little bit here. But is humanity naturally good? I know the thoughts that go into this little noggin of mine, and a lot of them are not good.
Yeah. And
You
you've,
know,
you've had to learn how to take those thoughts captive and not go anywhere with those thoughts.
yeah, and just thinking to myself, I'm actually left to my own devices if I don't arrest my thoughts, and if I don't maintain my actions and challenge my motives. I would do a lot of crappy stuff. I probably would have slept around through my 20s. I probably would have I did take advantage of my parents. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that I would have done if I didn't have a moral compass. But having a moral compass means saying, I say no to this because there is a better path that's more life-giving to other people, or like to be a better example, or to have a healthier life. Not because I feel like I should, but because that's what I want.
Yeah. I think in general, again, people want the quick result. They want to feel good. They want to feel safe. They want to, feel they want utopia, okay? They want all that is good, but the reason why every utopia has failed is because no one wants to put in the work to make it happen. Utopia requires sacrifice. It requires laying down of your life, favoring other people, loving unconditionally, serving without fear, living with great abandon to your anxieties and things of that nature, but just being authentic and real. But a lot of people, that takes work, and it's not easy. And along the way, there will be rejection. Along the way, there will be pain. Along the way, there will be suffering to get to that place. And there's there's a road of corpses leading to the path of utopia.
And there's two things I'm thinking about with this too, because as we go from person to person, seeking for that humanity, seeking for that hero, that protagonist, sometimes we find them, and then it's like we find that person that gives that safety, because you can trust that they're going to take their thoughts captive and do good stuff. You can trust that because you find those people sometimes.
And their track record suggests they do.
Yeah, and then when that person dies, or when that person goes away for whatever reason, everybody's lost. Like we were talking about with Forrest Gump, how he's running and he's like, I'm done now. And everybody's like, well, what are we going to do now? Because you put all your faith in that person.
Right.
Or, they action the humanness that they actually have, and they give into one bad thought, or have in the past. We have a sincere knack, especially for political stuff, to go into somebody's past and say, you made this one mistake, you are a trash bag of a human. And everything, all the good stuff they've done for 20 years goes out the window. Our perspective on them goes out the window because they gave in a one thought. And it's like, okay, so you can't put your faith in a person because they may have done something bad, or they may do something bad in the future, or you can't put all your faith in that one person because one day they might go away. Then what are you going to have faith in? Right. It's just hopping from camp to camp to camp of safety, thinking, yeah, it's not in me. It's got to be somewhere else. Maybe somebody else is perfect. I'm not. I know I'm not. So I got to find somebody that's perfect. I got to find somebody that's going to create a stronghold of safety for me.
Right. And humanity is like sand. It's not a stable foundation to build a house on, because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do stupid things, and so I think it's not good to have faith in humanity. But moving on. So the next question I had is, why does it matter that humanity is naturally good or evil? Why does that matter? Why am I taking the time to even make this stream and bring out the dichotomy of those two thought processes and like separate them? Why does that matter? And I'll start with this one. I would have to say that the reason why it's worth the time to really think about it, of whether or not it's naturally good or naturally evil, is because if you have a worldview that's not centered in reality, you're setting yourself up for hurt. And you're setting yourself up for unnecessary failure. If you believe that humanity is unredeemable and absolutely trash, there is going to be a set of hopelessness, depression, resentment, evil from that mindset. But if you believe that naturally humanity is good and everything is positive and wonderful, there is also going to be hopelessness, depression, resentment, evil with that as well, because they're two ends. They're like, here's the center, here's reality, here's one ditch, here's the other ditch. Both of them are going to just fall off down into whatever the ditch leads to. It's just not going to work. So I feel like if we don't take the time to see what is humanity really, is it redeemable? Is it trash? Is it a perfect, like, we don't have that situated, then when life hits and reality hits as it does, then our life views are going to be shaken, and what is true is what's going to remain. So if we can figure out what the truth is, then when reality hits and life comes and COVID happens and riots happen and things are not as safe as they used to be, we're still secure because our hope is in the right place and our faith is in the right place. So that's why I think it matters. Can you think of any other reasons why it would matter, Tim, or anyone listening?
Well, when I work with clients and stuff, a lot of people, it's all a process of refining what they're trying to say. Because a lot of times people will just say something and they don't realize that it's a ruse for something else, or they're covering up something else. Like anger is a secondary emotion, and anger happens because you're feeling resentful, you're feeling hurt, you're feeling spiteful, and a lot of people don't realize that. So if you can't discern good from evil and you don't have a basis by which to view something, it's really easy to make excuses for it. Like it's a lot easier to hit somebody with, okay, there's accountability for your actions because you're actually not believing true, if you understand that the basis for their actions is evil. But if you think, okay, well, their basis for actions is good, it's so much easier to excuse it, saying, well, it might be the truth for them. I don't know.
They're good.
Don't worry about it. They meant well. Yeah, this guy killed my dog. He meant well. I mean, everything is going to be circumstantial, but you also can't have grace for somebody if you don't realize that they are evil, and you also can't hold somebody accountable unless you realize that their motives can be evil.
Yeah, if you think that everyone's good, then you would have no basis to stand on to help them when they stumble. But if you know that their natural inclination is towards unhealthy things, then when they do fail, it's not the end of your relationship with that person. You're going to have grace for them and yourself, and be able to minister to them. Whereas otherwise, you'd be like, I can't believe you've done this. I thought you were a good person. And it's like, newsflash, we all make mistakes. So what's the pros of looking at humanity as naturally evil in this case? What are the pros of that?
Hmm. Well, looking at humanity as naturally evil, the pros and cons. What are the pros?
Yes.
I think when you start at the bedrock of honesty, it's easier to fix stuff. Like I used to have a Mitsubishi Eclipse, and instead of this was back when I didn't make a lot of money and I had a car payment, but I wanted the sick cars that I saw in Fast and Furious because that's when those movies first came out. And I remember having issues, and instead of addressing the issues like an oil leak, as all Mitsubishis have, um, or whatever else, I would spend a little bit of money to, I don't know, add a carbon fiber hood to the vehicle, or little like neon lights that were $15 or something because it was stomachable. I thought that I could do that, and because it looked good, I didn't worry about the underlying issues. But when you get down to the bedrock of okay, you're actually messed up, you realize, okay, well, spending money on these superficial things that might make me feel good about it, they're just a waste of time.
Mm.
You know, I actually like buying a house. You might have a beautiful house, but if the foundation is cracked, run. That's a huge expense.
Mm.
And with people, the people that cover up how messed up they actually are with degrees, or with their ability to speak, or with all the quantity of relationships that they have. It's really easy for them to say, well, I don't have to address these issues because I have this fruit in my life, and all that fruit is superficial. All of it's going to go away because if you're rotting at the core, it's going to rot everything on the outside. Eventually you're going to
Mm.
get tired of it, you're going to hate it. It's never going to be enough, it's never going to be fulfilling. That's why people who have sexual hurt as a child often think, oh, because I'm married, I'm good, and I get sex for my wife, everything's okay. No, guess what? You're cheating on your wife now, emotionally or physically, because you didn't heal what you actually needed to. So basically what I'm saying is, I think looking at humanity as natural evil, one of the pros, you get past the BS and you can actually address the issue and build from scratch, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you look at the pros of it, of viewing people as just people are just naturally evil, they're going to be inclined towards that direction. I think that's where you kind of, it's like living in reality kind of thing. You're equipped now. You know that they're most likely going to lie or cheat or whatever, and so you're kind of just like prepared for that to happen. And when it does happen, you're ready. You're prepared. Okay, I know this is going to happen. Boom, here's a fix for that, here's how I'm going to work with that. And then also you're looking for your own self. When you go and you make mistakes and stuff, you're not just like, oh, how did that happen, or I'm a naturally good person, I don't do those things. You live in denial of your own flaws and mistakes. So having that understanding that humanity is naturally flawed or evil, I think that's the pros. But there are cons, which need to be addressed, and I'm glad that you kind of brought that up, Joseph. So cons, I feel like if you go too far and like everyone is just in it for themselves and no one does anything, selflessly, like everyone is just a liar, they're gonna screw me over eventually, like I can't trust anybody. Cons, going too far with it, is that you get isolated, and it's just you against the world. You can't trust anybody, they're gonna screw you over anyways. You can't get deep with a relationship because they're going to probably gossip about you, they're going to talk trash about you. So just cut people out of your life. You don't need them. You could be an island to yourself, and then you just, next thing you know, you got so much resentment and bitterness and fear. And I feel like that would probably be the cons, some of them. What other cons is there any cons I haven't thought of that you could see with everyone's evil?
Yeah, I think it's just expecting the worst of people, which is the opposite of loving them. Corinthians says that love expects the best, hopes for the best, and have faith has faith in the best. And I've just for some reason, that looking at humanity as naturally evil, one of the cons, I just think about all the people in the gaming community because there are so many people in the gaming community that have such a lack of faith in humanity. Like I was playing with this guy last night, League of Legends, and every single word out of his mouth was a sarcastic. It's weird. It was like he sounded jovial, but you could tell there was sarcasm in his voice when he was talking about the people we were playing with and life and stuff. And it was just like every bit of it had some like hint or nuance of toxicity in it. It was putting the person down, expecting the worst of them. They're not going to do this, or yeah, that's how they all are, and it just made me feel bad. It's like, ugh, get off me,
Yeah.
And a lot of people sit in that. There's this other friend that I play League of Legends with, and I'm like, well, dude, why don't you want to join Discord so we can talk to all the other people? He's like, I don't like people. I was like, well, why don't you like people? He's like, well, everybody that is out there that I've never met, most people are just crappy people. I was like, well, dude, I was one of those people at one point, and now we're friends. It's like, how do you navigate that? And then I've got other friends who are lonely and they're single and they have that viewpoint. It's like, how are you ever going to find a wife? How are you going to make friends if you just expect the worst of people, thinking, oh, they're evil and they're nasty and they're selfish. I'm never going to. And trust issues.
Yeah.
We want to be loved, we want to be acknowledged, and we want to do that for other people. That's just wired into us, and you can't do that if you just assume that everybody's evil and they're also never going to choose otherwise.
Yeah. So yeah. But then, flip side, what are the pros? I'm talking pros of viewing humanity as naturally good. That's the next thing, because there are pros to that. Otherwise, people would not do that.
Mm-hmm. Looking at humanity as naturally good, pros and cons. Man, this feels like Dungeons and Dragons.
What, like talking about the
lawful
morality?
neutral,
Yeah.
lawful good.
Lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good.
I think I would be neutral good, honestly, because sometimes you got to do bad stuff to accomplish good things, but not always. Because lawful good, I feel like lawful good would kind of be like saying, it's like the argument about abortion. If somebody was raped, abortion is not great because you're going to kill somebody. But what if the person doesn't choose it? It's almost as though, like, I mean, that's a whole different topic. And I don't think, I don't support abortion. And is it insensitive to think that somebody should have to have a baby if they're raped? Yeah, it is kind of insensitive. But, raising somebody, we'll talk about that another time. That's a huge conversation.
Thought rate in the future.
But looking at humanity as naturally good, the pros. I think looking at humanity as naturally good, the pros, it's really easy to have faith in people and to expect the best of them if you think that they're good. But I think I don't know if I like that language because specifically looking at humanity as naturally good, because I like to look at people. Maybe this is jumping ahead, but I like to look at people as evil, but expecting that they have the propensity to choose good. But yeah, it just makes it easier to engage with other people, thinking, "Oh, this is a good person." I don't know. I think I'm oversimplifying. Brandon, please take over.
Yeah. So I feel like there are pros, though. I think if you naturally view people as good, like people are naturally good and they're going to do the right thing, that does help to some degree with trust as well, like a willingness to trust someone, because if you encounter multiple good people, which you are more than likely to go and to encounter people that are not just gonna intentionally do something wrong to you, then you might be able to develop deeper relationships with that person, take some risk and chances in that area, I feel like. And then it just also gives you peace because if they're naturally good, then I don't have to worry so much about locking my door at night or whatever. I can just relax and know that people are going to do the right thing. And so it just kind of pushes that concern and worry off to the side, gives me a little bit of breathing space, because I'm not so worried about my own well-being because they're naturally good. So we can just, if something bad happens, it was probably a misunderstanding. Let's talk it out, figure out what were you meaning to do, and we're good, kind of thing. And again, as long as it doesn't come into my life and you just do that thing by yourself, you're good and I'm good. We're great. It's no problem kind of thing. So I feel like, the pros of that is the peace of mind, the ability to take risks a little bit, not so worried about what's going to happen, because you kind of trust humanity to operate within certain parameters. And so I feel like that, in general, would be the pros that I can see. But of course, as we asked, what are the pros of evil or viewing everybody as evil, and the cons of that, I also want to know what are the cons of viewing people as naturally good. Go for it.
So, I've been a very romantic person growing up through my childhood and adolescence and young adulthood. And when I say romantic, I mean just the Disney poetic protagonist of the movie riding off in the sunset, battling dragons, the very romantic idea of life, And when you do that and you think, oh, well, everybody's naturally good, I'm going to believe the best in everybody, harmony, peace, love, and all that stuff, it's really easy to be taken advantage of. Like when you just assume that somebody's motives for you are good with no qualifiers and without any accountability, which is really easy to do because it's tough to hold somebody accountable to something if you just assume that their motives are good when they've done something wrong to you. It's kind of like just assuming that a pastor is good because he's a pastor. And, down under, he might be like the Duggars, that whole situation where he was being unfaithful, or, pastor stealing from the church or whatever.
Yeah.
You think somebody's doing good. You think on the surface they're a fantastic person. And then, what happened to all my money? Where'd it go? Or what happened to my friendship? What happened to my trust? Oh man, you really hurt me. I didn't see that coming. And that's happened to me so many times just because I was naive about how evil people can actually be.
Yeah. I think God gave me a unique perspective about this one, and I wrote about it on my Facebook page. So I want to go to that and read that kind of verbatim because it really hit me one day. It said, so it is more dangerous to think humanity is naturally good instead of naturally evil. Why? If humanity isn't naturally evil, then if people do a bad thing or do bad things, they can be isolated as bad, not fitting into the mold. This subtly opens the door for comparison and complacency. How? Though on the surface it may seem noble to have faith in humanity, that in doing so you'd always see the best in people, even the best people make selfish decisions and damaging mistakes. On top of this, everyone has expectations, and if humanity is naturally good, you would end up being increasingly jaded with each mistake they make. If multiple people behave similarly when you believe humanity is naturally good, this thinking leaves the door open for racism and segregation. Why? If humanity is naturally flawed and a certain type of people keep making the same mistakes, then you can logically deduce that those people are just naturally flawed, but everyone else is fine. So what? Consider this. Whether you believe that humans are naturally good or evil, you have to at least recognize that their morality has changed over the years. This means that if humanity is naturally good and morality has been regularly changed, who is considered and accepted as bad has changed many times over the course of human history, thus nullifying the belief. So I feel like it's the cons are much more broader than I think we realize when we think that, okay, all of humanity is naturally good. Because then, like, it just kind of hit me. I realized if humanity is naturally good, And there are some people that are going to do wrong, because there's always going to be people in your life that irritate you, that treat you wrong. That's going to happen. And more than likely, there are going to be groups of people that kind of do similar things. And so if humanity is naturally good, then that leaves the door open for really bad things. Because now it's like these few people don't fit the mold. They've consistently done what I think is wrong, and what even the rest of society thinks is wrong. Therefore, these people must be purged. So now, that's how we've got into these riots, where it's like, let's defund the police. Okay, what happened with the police with the murder of George Floyd was wrong. It was absolutely wrong, and they deserve the full sentence that they get. They deserve whatever whatever logically the full sentence is for that. They deserve that because of what they did. But that does not mean that all of the policemen are evil. It means some are, and going from the logic that humanity is naturally flawed, that means some of them are not always going to be on top of their moral game. They're going to make decisions that are wrong. If you believe that police are naturally good, then when they make mistakes, now you're feeling like the entirety of the police force is wrong and bad and evil. We should deal away with them because my neighbors didn't do anything wrong, and these group of people never did anything wrong. They were always good to me, but these people, they keep giving me tickets. They keep doing whatever. Like, they're just flawed people. And now we have rationalized that all of this is bad. All these people are bad because they don't fit our mold of morality and what we think is good. Because it's like it or lump it, no one person fully understands all that is right and wrong. So to go from the belief that all are good means that there are going to be people that are going to fall short of what we believe is good. And then if we hold on to that belief, then we can later rationalize segregating from them. We can rationalize this entire race is bad. We can rationalize those things. And that's a con of believing that all of humanity is naturally good, because it's not. So I feel like for clean language purposes, and closing this up with this, is maybe the best way of looking at it is maybe not that humanity is all good, and also that it's not all evil, but that it is lost. That we are lost as a people, not really knowing right from wrong well, that we are broken. Humanity is naturally broken, and we are naturally selfish, and will make decisions typically without help in a direction that benefits us over the other person. Because I think if we look at humanity as naturally broken and naturally selfish, I feel like that would probably be a little bit better when it comes to equipping. Because the final question I had is, what is the best view of humanity that empowers us? So I would say that it's to look at humanity as naturally broken, and more inclined towards selfishness than not. Because then when humanity inevitably fails, and it will, we understand that that's going to happen, and it's going to happen in ourselves, and we are more equipped to provide mercy, forgiveness, grace, love, when otherwise, it would be too scary to do that because of they're absolutely, completely, and totally, out to kill me, or, just perfect and a shining star. Because I think that's the whole reason why Jesus came, to show us our brokenness, to show us where we got off course, and to show us how to live truly good lives that takes care of ourselves, but also others. That is more focused on others, putting others before ourselves. Not to say that we have no individual purpose or importance, because that's not true. We don't want to get into self-hatred, but not hiding our value to the point that we are gods, because that is a thing. There are New Age beliefs that we are God, and that's the other end of the spectrum. I think that probably kind of comes out of years and years of self-hatred and how bad that feels. People would then naturally gravitate in the other direction because it feels better. But the reality is the middle, that I think that humanity is naturally lost, broken, selfish, and is going to gravitate towards those things unless helped. And I think that overall shows the need of a person, a savior, a person who was able to live with all the same temptations that we've had to go through, shortcomings, needs, whatever, but somehow managed to not be controlled by those things and lived above them. What are your thoughts, Tim? Do you have like a more rounded? So the question
Yeah.
is, what is the best view of humanity that empowers us?
So I like the middle of the road thought process on this because you're thinking about good or evil. Do we have the natural tendencies for good? Do we have the natural tendencies for evil? I think we want to be good just because we don't want evil, much like a lot of Christians want to believe in God because they don't want to go to hell.
Yeah,
And that's not a heart change. That's a do this or else change.
right.
Um, so what is the best view of humanity that empowers us? I think I when we first started talking about this, I did not want to agree with you on the basis just thinking, okay, humanity as a whole is evil. But now I think I actually want to, because now that I'm actually thinking through it, um, talking about getting down to the bare bones framework of a house. Like if you buy a house that's dilapidated, you don't just slap new drywall on and call it a day. It's
Yeah,
gonna rot.
yeah,
You tear down all the crap, you get down to the bones, you're like, what do I actually have to work with here? What's good, what can I build upon? And you start fixing things. And after a while, you get to where you have a good house, but it takes hope that you can actually do that. Is this salvageable? And I think thinking about the gospel, the big question is, are we salvageable? And you're absolutely salvageable.
yeah,
So when you think about people, are we naturally evil? Yeah, we are. Because of you know, go back to the Garden of Eden, ate the fruit, boom, evil.
yeah.
Evil was introduced. That's been in us. Um, but then what do you do with that? What's the best view of it? I go to 1 Corinthians 13, and I love going to this because our one commandment is love, right?
Yeah,
You love your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. I'm thinking, okay, well, love your neighbor as yourself. That's a really big thing. That shows that since Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, or that has been said as our commandment, that includes other people. We're not meant to be isolated. We're not meant to love God with all your heart and that's it. No, love God with all your heart and then love your neighbor also. So we're meant to to engage with other people. But how are we supposed to do that if they're evil? But if you go to 1 Corinthians 13, if I am evil, what I need is patience. I need kindness. I need people that don't envy my situation and don't boast about theirs when they're in a better situation. They're not proud of being better than me, or, not making the bad decisions I've made. I need people not to dishonor me. I need people to seek my welfare and to build me up. I need people to not get angered by my situations. I need, people to, even though I've done bad stuff, not keep records of it and say, I am my circumstances. I need people that are going to, excuse me, refocus me on the truth and say, no, this is what's true about you. You are salvageable. It says love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. If I'm an evil person, that's what I need. I need somebody that wants to protect me, that is going to trust me, that is, hopes the best for me and perseveres because I'm worth it. And I just, not saying that you should think that everybody's good. I think that you should identify people for what they are, but say that, okay, they have the potential for good. And I'm going to continue to believe that until they leave the earth, because that's what love is. Trusting that somebody has the potential to be good
yeah,
means trusting that they are made in God's image, which is love, and the potential is there. They just have all the crap, all the self-loathing, the hatred, the insecurity, the selfishness, all that's there, and it needs to be whittled and refined, just like you have to remove all the crap from a dilapidated house.
yeah. I think it's good to like take the good of those two polar opposite beliefs and partake in those good things. Because, like, you know, believing that humanity, a part of believing that humanity is naturally good is the trust that people have good intentions. And I think everyone has good intentions. Unfortunately, intentionality is not enough, because, I intended to do the right thing. You're like, okay, but you didn't do the right thing. What you did caused a wreck. But if you come with that trust that they have good intentions, then you can give them patience, and you give them your time to kind of dig through why they did as they did, looking for that good intention. So, like, okay, here's your heart in the matter. This is good. And I want to bless you in that desire of wanting to do the right thing. But here's the right way of going about that. Here's a better way of doing that, that not only is, good intended, but also produces good results, kind of thing. But at the same time, I think it's important to take from that, everyone has evil aspect too, because then when someone makes mistakes, you're not going to be, there's no wool over your eyes. You're not blind. You're not able to, like, oh my God, I couldn't see that happening. How could you do this thing? Like, oh my God. Like, it's like, no, it's people are going to make selfish, evil, personal decisions that are going to benefit them and only for a period of time, and so it's like, okay, cool. But I'm going to see what your intentionality was behind that. And I'm going to look for the best within you, understanding that you're probably going to make mistakes, and we're going to work together until we get to that place where intentionality and good are merged, and you're doing good and you're intending well, and they're working in tandem. And I think it also, taking of those two sides, then also gives you grace for your own self, to know that, because humanity is naturally flawed, I am naturally flawed. So when I make mistakes, I'm not thinking that I'm just some wonderful, good person and everyone should just see my intentions. They would have no problem with me. Like, that's not right, because I still have to live a good life. Like, that's not, my intentions alone are not going to solve the issue. So I'm naturally flawed, which humiliates me. But then I have good intentions, and there is better within me, and I'm striving towards that, which gives me the hope that I can overcome the flaws and the mistakes that I've made. And so we can come to this centered area of prepared for the wrong, and knowing that it's probably going to happen, but not giving up and believing the best in a person and being there for them when they are doing well and when they're doing bad, and just not giving up on a person, and knowing that if you dig deep enough into a person, you'll probably find the heart and be able to work from there and to help them to that place where we're hoping, where you get to hope for humanity rather than faith in, but hope for, that it will one day come, we will one day come to a place where we have put aside our differences, put aside our selfishness, and taken on the clothing of love and peace and the fruits of the spirit and stuff of that nature. So I think if we can find that center, knowing that people are going to make mistakes, but that it's not the end of the world, and there is hope, I think that would probably be a better balanced center than those two extremes.
Something that's really brought this to life for me is being married, because I married my wife, and I married her because I think she's amazing. I love her heart, and there's a lot of things that we miss on. Like, she doesn't like Marvel movies, I like Marvel movies. She doesn't like video games, I love video games. She doesn't like anime, I love anime. Conversely, she likes things that I don't like. And it's like, how do you make a marriage like that work? Well, she's got an amazing heart. Like, when we did the homeless ministry together, I got to see who she actually is and what her intentions are when we've gone through difficult times. I could see when she would choose me over her feelings. But the craziest thing is, when you think about commitment and intimacy, we have the intimacy of marriage, but that also requires the commitment of not giving up. And there have been multiple times where, even though I think I'm in the 90th percentile when it comes to good people. Once again, being self-righteous. Um, I make a lot of mistakes. Like, I have used the B word when relating to my wife in the past when I was angry, just to kind of push her buttons, and you do that in marriage everybody does. Even Matt Peterson, our pastor, has said that he's done stuff in arguments where he was not, where he was giving into his flesh and not his renewed mind. But she has her own things like that, and even though I know that she's got those things, I still have hope for her that she cares to turn that around, or cares to improve, or cares to grow beyond it. And I trust that God's going to lead her in that direction. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be married. If I thought, well, she's like this, she's always going to be like this, I just give up. There's no way I could sleep in a bed next to her with my eyes closed, trusting that everything's going to be okay.
You're not going to wake up dead. Well, wake up. That you're not going to wake up the next morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a testament to God and to love specifically, that you can trust somebody with your life knowing that they come from a base of evil thoughts. That's really interesting. Somebody that has thoughts of being self-serving, and somebody meaning everybody, humanity. We have a base of being self-serving. We have a base of being self-preserving. We have a base of credit edifying. We want to make ourselves look good. We're prideful people. We want things like, if I have a steak and I'm super hungry, I want it all for myself. I don't want to share it with. That's how we are naturally. But to think that my wife is somebody that comes from a base of stuff like that, as we all do, and I can trust that she's going to choose me, and even if she doesn't choose me right now because she's working through stuff, that she will. That's crazy awesome, because she does the same thing for me.
Yeah.
And it's finding that middle of the road where you acknowledge that somebody is evil, but trust them enough to say, hey, I'm going to give you intimacy and commit to not giving up on you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you do relationship.
Yeah. I think that's a testament to the importance of having relationship with God, with Christ. And now, I've learned recently that there is unclean language with God. That some cultures will think of God as Buddha, some cultures will think of God as Allah, some cultures will think of God as something else. So to be clarifying, I am talking about Christian God, Yahweh, to have a relationship with the Judeo-Christian God, Yahweh, and Jesus, the Messiah, the Christ, Yeshua. I'm specifically talking the importance of that because I think we as humanity need a baseline in order to be able to operate well with our other, brothers and sisters, with our family, with the rest of humanity. Someone that we know will always love us, will always care for us, will always provide for us, will always be our number one fan in all things. I think humanity needs a God. It needs a savior that will be there for us, because when humanity ultimately fails, God doesn't, and Christ does not fail. So we can always be secure in him, even if we have a big support group or a small support group of people, because he is consistent through it all. So I feel like to go through life as an atheist, to go through life, even, and I'm going to be a little bit bold in saying this, you can send comments about this if you disagree, like Tim always says, but I would say that it's important to have a relationship and to follow the Judeo God, the Judeo-Christian God, and Christ, because of all of the other gods that I know that are worshipped in the world, I don't know them to be as loving, as patient, as unconditional when it comes to their relentless pursuit of us than the other gods. To my understanding, based on other religions, it's all about what we can do to get to God, what we can do to please Allah, what we can do to get to the perfection of like with Buddhism, or was it there's one particular one that's like emotionlessness, like getting to a place where we have no desire, like getting rid of desires. There's all of the other religions that I'm aware of, the pressure is on the individual person. But unlike that, in Christianity, true Christianity, in true Judaism, if you're following the Torah, if you're following the Word of God, it's all about God's pursuit of us and what He does for us, how He comes underneath us and gives us a foundation that He's going to be there when no one else does. And He gives it if we make mistakes and we're earnestly following Him, it's the second chance, the third chance, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 99th, whatever. How many times should I forgive someone? Should I forgive them 7 times? No, I say 7 times 70 times. It's just this constant get back up. You can do better. Get back up. You can do better. I'm not giving up on you. I don't see that in other religions. It's all about what the individual person can or cannot do. So I feel like if we have God, Yahweh, if we have Christ as our foundation, then I feel like that empowers us in loving other people, in trusting people where we can know that they're going to make mistakes, but we're not going to give up on them either, and we're not going to live as an island to ourselves. I feel like that because we have a trust and faith in God that if we get screwed over, He's not going to screw us over. He is going to love us unconditionally and help us and be there for us when no one else will. And so that gives us the trust we need to continue to interact with other people. So I want to be bold on that. If you're watching this both now or in the future, and you haven't entered into any kind of relationship with the Judeo-Christian God Yahweh or Christ, I want to encourage you to start to reach out to your Christian friends, to reach out and to read the Bible, and to learn about God and what He says and what He believes, the hard stuff and the good stuff, because I think that will encourage you in time and help you know that there is hope. There is always hope. Hope even in the middle of a crisis, that you don't have to give up, that there is hope for humanity, even though you don't want to have faith in humanity. So I just want to kind of encourage you to move in that direction, because I think it will really take your living to the next level, honestly, as at least it has for me. It is that my walk with Christ has empowered me to be loving towards other people, even knowing that I may not get that back in return, to give without really knowing if I'm going to receive back. I don't think I would be able to do that apart from my faith and my walk with Christ all these years, and testing what the Word of God says, not just blindly following it, but testing to see, is this reality or is this just something made up by man? So I just want to encourage you in that. So do you have any other thoughts before we close out, Tim?
Negative.
All right. So yeah. So I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for making it all the way through this video if you've done so. I commend you for that. I'm sure it was not easy. And I just want to remind you, we broadcast every week, Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we will be broadcasting again tomorrow at 7 p.m., which, if there is anything that we did not cover today, or you have just a different question whatsoever that you want us to talk about, bring it to us. You can either bring it to the comments, send us an email at thoughtrate@gmail.com, or whatever, or you can message us on Discord. Either way, we would love to go over whatever questions you have, so make sure to send them to us. And if you have not done so already, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, because that's where we take these videos, edit them up, and bring them back to you. But otherwise, I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys have a good night.